The setting is Bucharest, a city steeped in the echoes of both Cold War anxiety and modern European ambition. Under the vaulted ceilings of Romania's capital, NATO leaders, defence executives and policymakers have gathered for a forum unlike any other, a meeting where industry and security converge and where the future of collective defence is being defined in real time. From the podium, the newly appointed NATO Secretary-General, Mark Rutte, steps forward. His tone is measured yet resolute, his energy unmistakable. The room falls into attentive silence as he begins. He opens by thanking Romania for hosting the gathering, a nation that has become a frontline voice within the alliance's eastern flank. He praises the organisers, particularly Allied Command Transformation and NATO headquarters, for convening what he calls one of the largest industry-related NATO events ever held. Then he turns to the audience, an audience filled not with soldiers, but with the executives, engineers and innovators who build the backbone of modern defence. You, he says, are the industrial component of our deterrence and defence. There simply is no strong defence without a strong defence industry. The statement lands with gravity. For decades, NATO's strength has rested not only on its soldiers and generals, but also on the invisible army of manufacturers, suppliers and technologists who keep it equipped. And as the world shifts into a new era of strategic competition, that industrial dimension has never mattered more. Rutte recalls the recent NATO summit in The Hague, an event he describes as historic and decisive. At that summit, alliance leaders committed to what many called a generational shift in defence planning, the decision to invest 5% of GDP in defence by the year 2035. 5%, he emphasises, that's serious money, but it's what we need to stay safe. His words echo the sentiment that has grown across European capitals since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a recognition that security is no longer guaranteed by geography or goodwill, but by preparedness and capacity. For NATO, it is a call to action to buy more, to produce faster, and to innovate relentlessly. Rutte explains that this new spending will go beyond traditional hardware. It will encompass the full spectrum of modern warfare, from fighter jets, tanks and naval vessels to drones, ammunition, cyber defence and space-based technologies. But for these plans to work, he says, governments cannot act alone. We need you, the industry, he insists, looking out at the rows of executives. The open dialogue between NATO and industry will be essential as we deliver on these commitments. The message is clear. In this century, defence is not merely a matter of governments. It is a partnership with those who design, build and sustain the machinery of security. He notes that progress is already visible. Across Europe and North America, new production lines are opening, old ones expanding, and once quiet industrial zones are returning to life. There's more cash on the table, he says, and even more will flow. Countries like Romania are leading by example, pledging to raise their defence spending to 3.5% of GDP by 2030. But money, Rutte reminds them, is only part of the equation. Cash alone can't provide security, he says. We need real firepower and the most advanced technology. His words turn toward a darker horizon, the reality of the threats NATO faces. Russia's unprovoked war against Ukraine is the most obvious example, he declares. But the danger posed by Russia will not end when this war does. He warns that Moscow will remain a destabilizing force for the foreseeable future, its ambitions stretching beyond the battlefield into cyberspace, propaganda and the global energy network. And Russia, he adds, is not alone. It is working with China, with North Korea, with Iran, increasing defence industrial collaboration to unprecedented levels. They are preparing for long-term confrontation. In that single sentence, Rutte encapsulates NATO's new strategic worldview, one where old divisions between regions and regimes blur into a shared challenge. The message is unmistakable. The world's authoritarian powers are coordinating, and the democracies must do the same. We cannot be naive, he cautions. We must be prepared. Drawing from history, he invokes Franklin D. Roosevelt's wartime principle that powerful enemies must be outfought and outproduced. It is a reminder that wars are not only won on the battlefield, but also in factories, laboratories and boardrooms. The same can be said today. Rutte continues, we call it peace through strength. NATO will do its part and we need industry to do yours. The room responds with a ripple of applause, polite but earnest. The NATO Secretary-General presses forward, outlining what he calls the three drivers of success: quantity, creativity and cooperation. The first, quantity, he says, speaks to the need for mass and speed. We already have state-of-the-art systems, the best of the best, but we need more and we need them faster. The war in Ukraine has exposed a critical weakness that Western defence industries, optimised for efficiency and profit, have struggled to meet the demands of sustained conflict. Ammunition in particular has been a wake-up call. Until recently, Rutte admits Russia was producing more ammunition than all NATO allies combined, but not anymore. He outlines a quiet revolution underway, dozens of new production lines being launched, old factories retooled, and national stockpiles replenished at a pace unseen since the Cold War. We're making more than we have done in decades, he says proudly. We need to build on this progress, from high-end air defence systems to low-cost drone interceptors. Here, quantity is key. Then comes creativity, the second driver. Innovation, he explains, is no longer a luxury, but a necessity. The battlefield of the future will be defined not by who has more tanks, but by who has smarter ones. To stay safe in the future, Rutte says, we need to outsmart our adversaries, drawing on all our strength. He turns toward the innovators in the room, from established giants to nimble startups, and issues a challenge: bring your ideas. Put your ingenuity to the test. Use NATO as your testbed. He introduces one of NATO's most ambitious initiatives, the Defence Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic, known as DIANA, a network of testing centres and accelerators across alliance nations. He also highlights the NATO Innovation Fund, the world's first multi-sovereign venture capital vehicle designed to invest in deep tech startups working on dual-use technologies that can enhance resilience and defence. Through this fund, he says, we can help develop the next generation of innovators. It's a subtle but powerful message. The future of security will be coded, designed and prototyped as much as it will be commanded and deployed. The third pillar, cooperation, is perhaps the most fundamental. This is NATO's bread and butter, Rutte says. Bringing together the ideas, assets and industries of 32 countries across Europe and North America is powerful. But he stresses that cooperation must go even further to include partners like the European Union, Ukraine, and democratic nations in the Indo-Pacific, such as Australia, Japan, New Zealand, and South Korea. We have so much to learn from each other, he says. By combining our efforts, we can produce more and innovate faster. It benefits us all. His remarks carry a dual purpose, a reminder of shared values and a subtle warning against fragmentation. As global supply chains fracture and protectionist instincts rise, Rutte calls on NATO's members and partners to resist that drift. In his view, only through deep cooperation can democracies preserve the technological edge that underpins their freedom. But cooperation also demands courage and risk. Dangerous times call for bold action, he acknowledges. This demands a degree of risk tolerance from all of us. Governments must accept political risk, industries, business risk. Rutte understands the hesitation, the concern of shareholders, the wait for long-term contracts, the fear of overproduction once peace returns. I know, he says with empathy, you're waiting for governments to sign, and you're right, sometimes governments need to do that. Then his tone shifts, confident, almost persuasive. But I can tell you this, he continues, when it comes to investing more in our defence, the political will is there, the money is there, the demand is there, and our security depends on it. He pauses, letting the message settle across the hall. Perhaps we can make a deal, he suggests. On my end, I'll urge governments to walk the talk, to sign the contracts, expedite procurement, and keep supporting innovation. But in exchange, you, the industry, must be ready. Step up supply, expand production lines, open new ones, Don't let the fear of future surplus capacity keep you from meeting the real needs we face today. It's both an appeal and a promise that NATO will stand behind those who invest in its collective security. I have every confidence, he adds, that what you produce will be purchased. He reminds them that defence investment is not only about safety, it's also about prosperity. When industry steps up supply, he says the result is not only more security, but also more economic growth and many more jobs. His argument reframes defence not as a cost, but as a defence dividend that fuels stability, innovation, and employment across allied nations. For countries struggling with economic uncertainty, it's a compelling vision that the act of defending peace can itself generate prosperity. As the applause rises once more, Rutte closes with conviction. The defence dividend is real, he says, and our mission couldn't be more worthy. So let's work together to deliver a safer and more prosperous future for us all. The audience stands in recognition. In that moment, the speech transcends the walls of the conference hall, becoming a declaration of strategic intent for an alliance entering a new age. For NATO, this is no longer a question of simply deterring war. It is about sustaining peace through resilience, cooperation, and shared innovation. For industry, it is a call to rise to view defence not as an afterthought, but as a vital frontier of technology, economy, and security. As the crowd disperses, conversations continue in quiet corners. Executives speak of supply chains, ministers of procurement timetables, and generals of deterrence postures. Yet behind every discussion lies the same realization that the world has changed, and so must the alliance that protects it. Mark Rutte's words linger like a refrain: peace through strength, unity through cooperation, prosperity through defence. And in Bucharest, on that crisp morning where politics met production and diplomacy met design, NATO's message to the world was unmistakable. Freedom endures only when those who believe in it are prepared to defend it.